be snowed in.
To
When
be
you're snowed in,
when you're
it means you are
snowed in.
unable
It
to
means you are
leave
unable
because
to
of
leave
heavy
because
snow.
of heavy snow.
Jen and I were
Jen
a little
and I
bit
was a
snowed
little bit
in
of-
three
it was
times in the past
snowing
week
three
and a
times
half.
in the past week and a
It
half.
wasn't anything
It
major.
was
Within an
anything
hour,
major.
I could
Within
clear
an
the
hour, I could
driveway,
clear the
and we were
driveway,
able
and we
to
was able
leave.
to leave.
But if it had
But
kept
if it has
snowing
kept
for
snowing
days,
for days,
eventually it becomes very
it becomes
difficult
very
to
difficult to
get
get
out.
out.
We might call
We
that
might
a
call
blizzard,
that
where the snow just
we have
keeps getting
snow
deeper,
just get deeper,
and you can't keep the
can't
driveway
keep
clear.
the
But to be
driveway
snowed
clear.
in,
Be
unable
snowed
to
in,
leave
unable to leave
because
because
of
of
snow.
heavy snow.
Wind chill. So
Wind
this is
chill.
an
This is an
interesting
interesting
effect.
effect.
It means feeling
means
colder
feeling colder
than it is
than it
because
is
of the
because
wind.
of
And
the
they'll
wind.
actually
And they
give this
actually
a
give
number.
this a number.
In fact, if I look at the weather for today, let me pull it up. So it's
It's minus
23 in the town
23
close to me.
in the town
High
close
of
to me.
minus 12
High of
today.
minus
The
12
wind
today.
chill
The
will
wind
make
chill will
it
make
feel
it
like minus
like
22.
minus 22.
So did you hear that?
So you hear
It's going
that?
to be a
It's going to
high
be
of
a
minus
high of
12.
minus 12.
But because of
But
the
because of
wind,
the wind,
it will
it
feel
will
like
feel
minus
like
22.
minus
So that's the
22.
wind
That's the
chill
wind
or the
chill.
wind chill
The
effect.
chill effect.
Wind always
Wind
makes
always
it
make it
feel
feel colder
than
than
it
it
is.
is.
So if I
So
go
if I go
outside
outside
on a day
on
where
a
it's,
day where
this is going to sound kind of
it's gonna
funny.
cause
If it was
kind of
minus
funny. It was
22
minus 22
with no wind and the sun was shining, that is actually a
That's
beautiful
actually a
day
beautiful
to
day to
be
be
outside.
outside.
If it was
If it
minus
was
10,
minus 10,
so 12
so
degrees
12
warmer,
degrees warmer,
but the winds
but the
were blowing
wind
at
were
50
blowing
or
at
60
to
kilometers
60
an hour,
kilometers
that
an
would
hour,
be
that would be
unbearable.
unbearable.
You would not
You
want
would
to
not
be
want to be
outside for very
outside
long.
for
If
very
you are a
long.
member
If
of
you
the
are a member
channel,
of
you'll
the
see I
channel,
did a
you
few
see
members
and
only
had a
videos.
a few members
I think one's
video
called
and
It's
was called
Cold,
It's
the other one just
the
is
ones
very,
were
very cold.
Very, very cold.
Both of those,
Both of
it's
those
mostly because,
mostly because
of
of the wind.
You can stay
You
pretty
can stay
warm
pretty warm
outside when there
outside
is no
when
wind.
there is
It
no
can be
wind.
very, very
It
cold
could be
and
very,
you
very
can stay
cold.
pretty warm.
You can stay pretty
Cold snap.
Cold snap.
Sudden cold weather.
Sudden cold
So
weather.
this is something
This is
that can
something
describe two things in my mind. It can be when
This
it
can
goes
be when it
from
goes
like
from like
1 degree to
1
minus
degree to
10
minus
overnight.
10 overnight.
It's a cold snap.
It's a cold snap.
But you could also
But you can
say,
also
oh, we're going to
say, oh, it's
have
gonna
a 3-day
have
cold
a 3
snap
days
where
cold
it's going to
snap.
be
It's
below
gonna be
minus
below
20
minus
every
20
day.
every day.
So it simply
So it
means
simply
a
means
sudden
a sudden
change in weather.
in weather.
We are not
We are
really
not
in a cold snap
really
right
in
now.
the cold
It's
snap
just
right
cold
now. It's just
every
cold
day,
every day,
day after day.
day after day.
So I would use, instead I would just say
it's
it's freezing, or it's very,
or
very
it's
cold.
very, very cold.
Whiteout.
Whiteout.
When snow and
When
wind
snow
make it
and
hard
wind
to
make it
see,
hard
we
to see.
usually
We
use this term when we're talking
when we're
about
talking
driving in bad weather. So a whiteout is when either it's snowing
it's snowing
or drifting.
drifting.
Snow is when the wind picks the snow up,
is
or usually both. And there's so much snow
there's so much snow
that it's very
that it's
difficult
very
to
difficult
see.
to
It's
see.
very
It's
dangerous
very dangerous
to
to
drive when there are
when
whiteout
there are
conditions.
whiteout conditions.
The other day, it was snowing and the wind was blowing and picking up snow, and we couldn't see the barn from the house. So those of you that are familiar with my property, because we were in whiteout conditions, it is not a good idea to drive when snow and wind make it hard to see. This is actually not too bad. I've driven in weather like this, but there are times where I have pulled over or pulled into a parking lot, or even just gone to a restaurant, even though I wasn't hungry, because the whiteouts were so bad that it was dangerous to drive. Sometimes you just take a break and you check the day. Drifting. These kind of look the same, but in this picture, drifting is snow from the ground lifted by the wind. So you see these little streaks of snow going across the pavement. That is what we would consider drifting snow. That snow is not coming from the sky. That snow is already on the ground, and the wind has picked it up and started to move it around. So in the winter, when it is very windy, there's a lot of drifting. Snow from the ground lifted by the wind. And then it often gets deposited somewhere else, usually in a snowdrift. So let me get this picture a little bit bigger for you. You can see here that this fence has caused the snow to pile up. Let me explain this a little bit. When wind picks up snow, when there is drifting, if there is something like a fence, when the wind hits it, the snow falls. So if you have a fence or a car or something outside where the snow is drifting, so it's being carried by the wind, and then when the wind has to go around, for some reason the snow will fall. Actually, it usually falls on the other side, so it gets lifted over and then it piles. So in this picture, the wind was coming. The wind was coming this way, and as it went over the fence, it dropped its snow and caused a snowdrift, a pile of snow made by the wind. So on a day when there is drifting, you will start to see snowdrifts form, piles of snow made by the wind. And fun to play if you're a kid. Accumulation. So this person has come outside and they are looking at their vehicle and noticing it is covered with snow. There has been a lot of accumulation, which is the amount of snow that has built up. When it's snowing and the snow lands, it doesn't go away like rain. It just starts to pile up. It starts to accumulate. And so they might say something like this on the weather. 10 to 15 centimeters of accumulation. That means we're going to get this much snow or this much snow. It's going to land. It's going to pile up on the ground. It's going to result in a lot of accumulation. Snow day. This is my favorite kind of day in the winter. A snow day is a day when school is canceled because of snow. So in places like Canada and in some of the northern US states where there is lots of snow, sometimes they decide it's just too dangerous to drive. People usually still go to work, but children are usually kept at home. So they make a decision that it's going to be a snow day. As a teacher, the night before, you think it might be a snow day because you don't know. And you have to get up early and you have to check on the internet. And at 6:30 a.m. it might say snow day today. And then everyone gets to stay home, including the teachers, which is one of the great perks of being a teacher, is that you have snow days. Very, very fun, very enjoyable. You can have a nap, you can do some schoolwork. I do that sometimes from home. It's like a free day off in the middle of the winter. Very fun. Snowplow. So a snowplow is a vehicle that pushes snow off roads. Should say off the roads, but off roads. This is a large truck with a blade on the front. It actually is a dump truck, usually in my area. So the back of the truck is usually filled with sand or a mixture of salt and sand or salt. And then the front has a blade. So as they push the snow off the road, a little trickle of salt and sand or sand falls, and there's a spinner and it spreads it out. So you will often see the snowplow removing snow, but also salting or sanding the road to make it safer. Snowplows come in all different shapes and sizes. But in my area, the ones that they use on the roads look exactly like this. Really big, with a really big blade in the front. So salt and sand. So I just mentioned salt and sand. This is a common sight in the winter when they can get down to the pavement. So if you put salt and sand are material spread to improve traction on icy surfaces. So salt will melt ice and sand will give you traction. And so the two materials are often used in the winter to melt the ice on the roads and to give traction. The problem is salt doesn't really melt snow that well. Like salt will melt ice, but it doesn't really melt snow that well. So we usually get to a point where you can't see the pavement, and they're just putting down a lot of sand in order
in
to,
order to
yeah, the snow's less
snow's
slippery
less
when there's some
slippery.
sand mixed in it.
when there's some sand
A
mixed
snow
in it.
shovel.
A
So
snow
a tool
shovel.
used to move snow by hand,
A
and
tool
this is a
used to move
special
snow by
kind of
hand, a
shovel.
special kind of
It's usually
shovel.
quite
It's
big
usually
and
quite
wide.
big
It's
and
usually
wide.
quite light
It's usually
because
quite
it's
light.
made
It's
out of
because
plastic.
it's made out of plastic.
Snow isn't very
Snow isn't
heavy.
very heavy.
It's not as
It's
heavy
not
as
as
dirt.
heavy as dirt.
So when you use
So when
a
you
shovel
use a
in
shovel
dirt,
in
the
dirt,
shovel
the
needs to
shovel
be
needs
made
to
out
be
of
made
metal.
out of metals.
But when you're
That's
shoveling
when you
snow, you can
you
use
shovel
a
snow, you
plastic
can
shovel.
use a plastic
And you use
shovel.
that to
and you use
move
that
snow
to
by hand, which is how
move snow
many,
by
many
hand,
people
which is how many people
clear their
clear
driveways.
their driveway.
An ice scraper
An
is
ice
a tool
scraper
used to
is a tool
remove
used
ice
to remove
from
ice
car
from
windows.
car windows.
So it's quite
So it's
common
quite
in the
common
winter.
in the winter.
When you drive
When
your
you drive your
car,
car,
you have heat
you
inside.
have heat inside.
And then when you
And
stop
when you
driving,
stop driving,
the snow
the
lands
snow
on the
lands on
windows,
the
but
window, and
eventually
eventually
it melts
it
and
melts
freezes
and
because your
freezes
car
because
is
your
still
car
warm.
is
So the
still
next
warm.
morning,
The next
often there will
morning,
be ice, and you have to use an ice
often there
scraper
ice, and you have to
to
use
remove
ice
ice from car
scrapers
windows.
to remove
And then
ice
we also
from
have what is
windows.
called a snow brush.
We-
It's quite common
It's quite common.
if you look at
If you
this
look
snow
at
brush,
the snow brush,
which is used
which
to
is
clear
used
snow
to
from a vehicle. It
clear
actually has
snow
a
from
little
vehicles.
ice
It has
scraper
the
on the
ice,
end, a little green ice scraper.
little green
It's
ice
actually
scraper.
more
It's actually
common
more
to have
common to have
an ice scraper
an
at
ice
one
scraper at
end,
one end,
and then the brush
and then
at
the
the
brush
other.
at
Those
the
are
other.
that's how
Those are-
our
that's
snow
how
brushes look. They have an ice scraper
snow
on the
brushes
end of the
look.
handle and a
They have
brush on the other end.
on the brush on the
but
other end,
used to clear
but
snow
used
from
to
a
clear
vehicle. And I
snow
think you've
from a
seen me.
vehicle. You have seen
I think you've
me
seen me do this
do
in
this
one or two
in one or
videos
two
at least.
videos at least.